Welcome to the Software Lifecycle Stories podcast. We bring you stories of what worked and sometimes what did not in the course of discovering, designing, developing, delivering, and using software-based solutions, as shared by practitioners who went through these situations. Today, my guest is Annie Abraham, Head of Financing IT and Group-Wide Process for Danske IT and Support Services in Bangalore. She shares her thoughts and experiences with transformation and modernization projects, applying Agile approaches in a large program, women and Agile, whether Agile ways of working is women-friendly, finding one's own rhythm to balance responsibilities at work and home, and some tips for those starting out on their careers. Listen on. Hi, Annie. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Shiv. Thanks for the opportunity. Yes.
Yeah. As you know, we've been trying to feature people who've been associated with software, their experiences, more from a point of cataloging them so that it is useful for others. Some of the things that you've gone through, you've learned it maybe the hard way, or some things that suddenly became a wow moment for you, would definitely be useful. And usually we start with the guest doing a self-introduction.
Okay.
So introduce yourself, your career, and then
Sure.
we can take it from there.
Sure. So I have been in the software industry for over 22 plus years. And I have worked in several organizations, but the longest I had was with HCL Technologies. A lot of experiences with modernization projects and programs, large ones, which transformed the bank. So that has been the foundation of my career. I have also worked a lot of time on Agile, and which is today really is important for all assignments that we do. Currently, I am with Danske Bank's subsidiary, Danske IT, and heading the financing IT and group-wide process for the Danske Bank. And this is a captive which is run out of Bangalore.
Oh, very nice. Actually, this triggers a few questions. You said that you have been associated with a lot of modernization and transformation efforts.
Yeah.
From what everybody sees as the financial institutions, there are a lot of regulatory compliances plus restrictions that are there. So working in those kinds of environments, how easy or difficult have you found this whole concept of modernization or changing something? And how have you gone about it?
Yeah, so from my experience, when I look behind where I have done the initial days while I was working with HCL, at that time we did a lot of modernization for Deutsche Bank. And we actually had a lot of systems applications that were run in multiple technologies. And the challenge was how to have a single architecture, a common architecture, so that a lot of efforts are saved with respect to. There are many benefits if I see that way. If I look at the people skills, or to find people skills for the old, and as the enhancements need to be done, it's quite difficult to do in old. So having a common architecture always helped. But in the first stage when we did it, it was more like an as is, and sometimes that does not bring a lot of benefit to the business users. But yet you need to do it, because if it has to be kept for the lights on itself, sometimes these kind of modernizations is very important. And currently what we are doing here in my current organization, the important aspect here is how we can quickly turn around solutions for customers and get a better customer experience. So there are different reasons that you would do modernization, but that is something that is required. And that is the journey that I think I have taken several times in in my career so far. Okay.
Yeah, so in these modernizations, what I understand is that you took a kind of a step back, looked at the overall architecture. It is not just about taking old code and then converting it into a new language or a new target platform. So when you do something like that, how about any of the non-technical aspects? That is, you may have to have interacted with the architects who had designed the old systems, or who may not be familiar with some of the new technologies that you may be proposing. So how do you handle the softer aspects or the non-technical aspects related to this?
So, to give an example, when we were doing some modernization with the really old technology like Clipper, there was no chance that the architects who were working on that technology would have understood a .NET SOA based architecture. So it is important to involve them because definitely they understand the non-technical aspects, the non-technical aspects of the systems, and so we had to we included them into understanding from them how the system has to be used, what are the the requirements that may be not from the functional angle, but what else is required. So in one of the assignments, recent assignments, we were actually modernizing a large public sector application, and it also had a lot of new features that had to be added in. And this system was developed about 12 or 15 years back, and this was a new system that we had to do in .NET MVC. Now, the architect who had actually worked on this was also there, and the person was very apprehensive on how we would take this forward, because before I joined the team, the architect who was actually the current architect for the project was not involving the old architect in the journey, and that was becoming a major issue, because definitely the person who has developed the old system knew a lot of issues that existed, and how complicated the database design was in the past, and what are the aspects we need to change. So this is one aspect that I felt that if we had not involved the old architect into designing the new database, it would have been a major nightmare, because to transition or to migrate the data from the old system to the new system would have become next to impossible, because the system had so much of data in the old system, and we were just trying to change it to the new, but keeping the database design in a way that you can migrate was very, very, very critical. And that, if we would have missed out, the project would have failed. So this is one of the examples that why we need to have the old team who has worked on the old system. So like that, I can actually quote many examples, but this is one of the critical things I felt was important, otherwise we would have failed.
Very interesting. So that is from the view of re-architecting or designing. But you mentioned that some of the technologies that you had to handle included Clipper. Okay.
Yes.
I don't know how many of our listeners would know about Clipper, but when you had to have this kind of a mixed workload in your team, were there any challenges where team members prefer to work only on the latest and greatest and say, I don't want to work on Clipper? How do you handle that? Or how do you bring in that balance of diversity in technology?
Yes. So in this particular example, that where we were asked to redevelop, you cannot migrate. So we have to redevelop whatever was there in Clipper to a new technology. And at that point, it was .NET SOA and this doc. So the challenge that we had definitely was the old system was not scaling up, and we had to redevelop the whole thing. So we had to, I think we had about 3 developers who were Clipper specialists, and they were the people who would support the old system. Now, to develop the new system, we definitely required their help also. And we required people who were there in the business as well as in the technology in the bank to help us, because this system was developed, I don't know how many years back. It must have been 20, 25 years back. And knowledge was not there anywhere. So where was the knowledge? It was in the people who were supporting the system and who were using the system. So we tried to do some kind of documentation on this as a part of, at that point, like, we started off with waterfall and did some documentation and all of that. But it only helped us to give a high level overview of the whole system. The system was really big. It was managing the entire business operations in UK. So now the people who are supporting definitely wanted to move to the new technology, but it was extremely difficult for them at that time, because they really needed to support the system, as well as they needed to help us to get this system understood by the developers, the new developers who were there on the new technology, and to keep both these things going. Now, it is extremely difficult for them to immediately move to a new technology. So the work that the way we worked it out was, we hired some more people so that they could support the old system with the help of these new the old team. And the old team was supposed to help us to reverse engineer the code in some manner, work with the new developers as experts on the old system. And we gave them that visibility, that you need to be able to help the new developers to develop this system, because any amount of written documentation is not going to help. So we have to break the system down into small chunks of different modules. And at that point, we started developing it in that manner with their help. The first time the CIO actually said that after we had a few iterations of this, he said that, yeah, I can see light down the tunnel, because this system was actually tried out with COTS systems, and they could not. They had failed some 3-4 times, and the only option was left was to rebuild it. There was no system that was available that could serve sufficiently enable them for all the features that they had in their old system. So that way, the team that was there did not technically move to the new technology, but they were the SMEs, the people who would certify that, yeah, you have developed the system well. They had started also looking at testing. So they were more acting like business for us. And even when we did the user acceptance test, they were also a part of the business team as user acceptance, as the users. And so it really worked out brilliantly for the Clipper system for us.
That's nice. That seems to be a lot of moving parts that you had to handle.
Yes.
You also mentioned, I don't remember if it was in this context or a little later, about wanting quick turnarounds for the customers and using agile approaches. Some of the things that you described in terms of breaking this big monolith into maybe smaller problems.
Monolith,
small things. So what is your take on Agile, whether you used it for this assignment or later, and how do you see your own transformation from traditional management approaches to Agile ways of working?
Yeah, so I actually learned it a very hard way, I would say, because initially when I was doing the re-engineering and redevelopment of several systems, that was at a point we had at least about, big and small, about 15, 20 systems being migrated, developed into the same .NET SOA architecture. So at that point, I was not very well versed. This was very many years back, I think maybe 15 years or something. But at that point, I was not very well versed with Agile, but definitely it existed. And what we did was we just started working in iterations and worked in that manner. And we did an upfront requirements gathering for certs, and which I felt later we never used those documents in that manner that they were created. So when I moved on later, then I also set up Agile COEs, and I actually learned the concepts, and saw the benefits as we rolled it out across the organization. Later, I was able to use all those learnings in few of the projects that I executed. And the best part of it was one of the large programs that we were working for a public sector. was completely, the whole program was in red, because there were huge penalties if we did not make the deadlines for that program. And it was a very large system that we had to develop. And here also it was important that the whole requirements gathering was already done in some manner in documents and all of that. And the people were just given the whole document. If you say that the document were divided into 100 sections, you take one section and say, okay, go ahead and develop. So that's a waterfall. You take the requirements and you're starting to develop with a architecture that has been laid out. So it was not going well at all, because there was a lot of missing requirements. People were interpreting it in the manner that they wanted to. So there was no prioritization of the requirements. Just the module was taken, the section was taken, whoever could develop whatever features, it was happening in that manner. So, we could not even see whether the section was 100% complete, could be completed, it could not be completed because there were dependencies on other things. And so I realized that this is not going to go anywhere. So when I stepped that program, first thing I tried to create was started on the product backlog. And we created not the 100% product backlog, but what we could start with. And we started doing that, and we had 4 parallel scrum teams that were created so that we could, because there was the speed was critical here. We needed to move on faster. So we created the product backlog, prioritized it well, created a small design note with respect to each story, which talked about how the screen should be. We had a UX team who would actually do the initial, the flow of the screens through Balsamic, and it used to be like you can see, you can interact in that manner. They would create it, and then what are the columns, fields, a little bit of description on what is exactly required, what validations are required. So that was a very small document per story. We used to have that, and that gave a lot of clarity to the developers. So we started in a proper Scrum manner, and we broke down the requirements in such a way that after each sprint, we would see that it is all the stories are tested and it is ready. So in that manner, we went ahead and created 4 Scrum teams. Each of them had their own velocity, and finally the project was really delivered successfully. So I would say that breaking down, bringing clarity, closing things early, not keeping it to the end. When you look at waterfall, always you feel, there is something we can finish in the end. But here we were trying to finish as and when we were going forward. And continuously we were regression testing, because the whole, all the 4 Scrum teams were releasing into one test environment. So it really helped to see, even for the customers, we could give them a demo time to time from, at the end of each sprint. So it really helped. So it was, we knew where we were. It was a true reflection of completion of work.
See, one thing I hear talking to many Agile teams is that they say that Agile means we are always under pressure. Okay, and with the need for perfection, a need for probably matching the 3rd or 4th decimal also in the financial industry, how do you ensure that the team focuses on the delivered quality?
So initially, in Agile, I feel there is a rhythm that you have to establish, and basically, sometimes we feel, okay, 2-week sprint or a 3-week sprint, whatever works. So initially, when you started with a 2-week sprint, we felt that the quality was getting totally affected, because the delivery was, the code development was happening only towards the last, and then we had just a few days to test. And then a lot of defects were leaking out, and then we had to have additional sprint to have a stabilization for all the releases that all the sprints that we had completed. So it is important to focus on quality where within the sprint itself. Others, you leave a lot of technical debt to be solved towards the end, and that is something that we avoided by making it a 3-week sprint, and getting some more time on testing. So we also established a mechanism for quality, like by not having too big stories, like have very small stories, so that it can be easily completed and given early for testing. It is a struggle, I would say, and that is why people say there is a lot of pressure. But if you ensure that there is good amount of grooming done, a lot of clarity on the stories are there before you start off the sprint, then it helps to a very large extent. But if you come into the sprint and then you have a lot of clarifications and a lot of missing stuff which you need to figure out, then you don't have so much time within that time that you have in the sprint. So grooming the backlog well, bringing good clarity to the stories, and understanding the dependencies of each story with the other, so that you're not waiting upon somebody. All these need to be established. It is I would say, uh, people will say there is pressure, but I think over time you get used to clearing all these issues that the team faces. And if you do that retrospectives properly and mitigate or resolve all these teething issues, then I think it becomes a lot more smoother as you go forward. And I have heard teams that we said that we had set up, some of them saying that it has become like a habit. Like now, this is how you need to work. So if you don't work that way, it's like the Bombay life. People moving out from Mumbai will never like to will stay in any other place. So you get used to that
Right.
rhythm and that kind of pressure. So it is nice to have that. But I wouldn't say it should become, too difficult. Then you will not give the best. And the team has to be self-motivated and organized. They would get close to each other as they work. We don't change teams so often in Agile, so the team really bonds well and they know how to help each other. All those characteristics need to come in as we move forward.
Nice. So the question triggered by that, when you said it becomes a habit to keep delivering consistently, and also that the Mumbai kind of pressure, how does that fit in with typically women in IT? Because they do have a lot of responsibilities outside work also. It is not just work and fun alone. So is Agile suited for women, or how can women contribute their best when working in an Agile mode?
Good question. So, being a woman, I think I have seen and experienced a lot of ladies who definitely are gifted with multi-skilling. Okay, so definitely they're able to, if they have picked up a profession as a software professional, they are able to deliver within that frame as well as do their work at home. But it is not, I wouldn't say it is very easy, but I have seen many women being very focused when they are at work, and wouldn't they know that they need to move out at a certain time because they have responsibilities elsewhere. So from my perspective also, I've always been very focused when I come to work. I don't want anything to disturb me and finish my work so that I need to go home for the responsibilities that I have. So I have seen a lot of ladies who are in that similar mode. And when we say Agile, it is not about planning more than, the hours that you have in office. So you definitely do an 80%, productivity that you would expect. And that should be possible for them. So some of them definitely go home, and after everything is over, they do their remaining, if they have some work to do. So I think women in IT are able to balance, but at some times, definitely they need to slow down maybe. That's something I was telling one of my colleagues recently, that at some points in life where you have a lot of challenges going on, you need to do your work, of course, but don't take up too much additional pressure that you cannot handle. Then you break so badly that you need to just quit, and then you don't come back. So many women have, you need to learn to balance the pressure in such a way that it does not become so overwhelming that you need to really give up. So you need to keep your career aspirations at some points in your life a little, realistic. That I would say.
Yeah, so that triggers another question, which is the support from family. So for women, how can they get the empathy and the support from family so that they're able to balance this better?
Yeah, family plays a very crucial role, I would say, because definitely if you are in a joint family, there are a lot of pressures on you, but definitely you get a lot of support from the family too. Uh, I mean, if they're willing to extend a helping hand. And that I have seen in many homes that, parents and in-laws and all of them come home and help the young families where they have children and all of that. So support definitely is important, but luckily in India, I would say, more than any other place abroad, we have a lot of help that we can get from the people around. Like there are so many agencies that you can get help from also. So support from family is very, very important, because that oversight that they can give to your family and your children in the early young ages is important. That gives you a lot of peace of mind to work in the office without worrying about anything at home so much. So yeah, support from family, I would say, is crucial, and I have been lucky to have that through my life. So I would really thank my mom-in-law, who has been with me always.
Wonderful. So does having a spouse also in IT make it easier?
Oh yeah, I miss the family when you say, definitely spouse. Yeah, so spouse being in IT, I think for me, I would say it has helped, because there are many occasions where, it is where I was in a dilemma on certain things. It was easier to discuss and get some more thoughts and points on that. So from that intellectual perspective, decision making aspects also, it was one of the it was very good for me when I could discuss this openly without any apprehension with my husband. With respect to supporting in your career also, it helps to take a direction certain times, and they understand the pressures that you go through, and definitely they are able to appreciate what you're going through. Again, I said, you have to be realistic, you have to balance things out. You cannot be you can be a career oriented person, but at some times you need to be careful that you don't step too hard too ahead. So if you establish that, it is a learning game. Of course, it's not easy. It's a balance that you have to establish. But with all that said, I think spouse being in IT, for me, it has really helped, because it is easy to talk and understand each other better.
Yeah, that's nice, because there's another theme I want to explore in some of the future episodes. I'll probably come back to you with having both you and your husband together to explore
Sure.
that. So a related thing is, we spoke about other support from family and your husband as well. And seeing both of you, have your children also taking in or getting into IT?
No. Both of them have chosen different professions. I don't think they. Today, I think the world is open for so many new professions that they can explore. So, my son is moving into architecture. My daughter is very much interested in music, so she's going in for vocals. So they have taken different professions, but I wouldn't say that uh, that we never try to influence them to saying that you need to be working moving into engineering or medicine, as was in the past. So today there are a lot of options, and I think most children I know of my friends around also have taken new careers, and that I think is good, because I think the world is open and has a lot more opportunities, with so much of information available. And I think if you are passionate about something, they will make it.
Yeah, that's encouraging, because at one time it used to be everybody was flocking into IT, effectively
Yeah.
sucking out the manpower from other industries.
Yes.
It's good
Yes.
that
Yes.
people are able to find something to do with their passion. So other than the work and things like that, how do you keep your own balance?
So yeah, sometimes life teaches you with some hard examples. Hard experiences, that you need to maintain a good balance between work and your health. So yeah, so what I do is I spend a lot of time playing. That is something that I enjoy, and I play badminton about 4 or 5 days in the evenings a week. And I also love to sing in the choir, so I join the church choir. I do that. I do a lot of listening of videos, audios on technology and various other subjects, TED talks. So that is how I keep myself engaged now.
Very nice. So to conclude, would you have some tips for the aspiring youngsters who want to get into IT?
So through my career, I think I have seen a change in the attitude. So more than knowledge, I feel the attitude of people is very, very important. And I think in the past, when I would have the the young talent join the teams, I saw a lot more a lot more passion and a lot more dedication in the work, and that somehow I felt has been fading. I would not generalize it for all, but I have seen, I mean, many times now I feel that children who are young talent who are coming in need to really be diligent, patient, learn in their initial years, because that is something that has really helped me in from my early years. So being very, very focused on learning more than anything else, and setting up a strong foundation for you will take you ahead in your life. Because if you don't learn in the initial years really well, you will suffer as you go up. So it is important that you start, as you start, you really are focused, you really are wanting to do new things, are very motivated, whatever be the work that you get. Because it is not that you will get the best work sometimes, but whatever you get, if you're able to do that extremely well, the good work will come to you. So you really need to be focused in that manner. And if you do that, I think that is something that I would definitely tell the young talent who are joining the IT.
Very good, Annie. That is about
Yeah,
all
thanks.
that I could think of. So are there anything else that you think we should have talked about?
No, I think covered almost everything. Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay. If you like the show and would like to share your experiences with the community or know someone else who might want to do that, please get in touch with us at podcast@pm-powerconsulting.com. That is podcast@pm-powerconsulting.com.
Please rate the show on Podchaser, Stitcher, iTunes, or any other podcast client that you find us on. Please also share our episodes with your friends and others in your network. If you or anyone you know would like to be featured on our show, do write to us at this email address: podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.